You're listening to Smart Metals Radio from the Hard Assets Alliance.
Hello and welcome to the Smart Metals Radio Show from the Hard Assets Alliance with me, your host, Andy Duncan. My special guest today is Bill Murphy, Chairman and Director of GATA, the Gold Antitrust Action Committee. Today we'll be speaking about the purpose of GATA, potential market manipulation in precious metals, and the possible role of the US government within the hard asset arena. Hello, Bill.
Great to be here, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Now, many of our listeners may have heard of GATA, but can you tell us exactly what you do and how you get funded and who make up your personnel?
Well, GATA was founded by my colleague Chris Powell and myself in January of 1999 to expose the manipulation of the gold and silver markets. We thought initially it was just a billion banks after long-term capital management blew up, but as we got into it, we realized it was much bigger. It involved the Bank for International Settlements, the Fed, the Treasury, Exchange Stabilization Fund, other central banks, and so on. And our mission is to expose it, let people know via all the facts we've uncovered that all fit together about the market manipulation, and then to get it out public enough so that it can be defeated at some point.
Yeah, and how do you get funded, just so we know that you're completely legitimate?
Well, ironic enough, way back when, we actually got funded $20,000 a piece from Barrick Gold and Anglo Gold, two people we took on for all their hedging purposes, and they even supported us. Since then, it's been individuals all over the world and other gold companies, silver companies. So we get, investor support and corporate support from some of the companies. Of course, we'd like to get a lot more, but that's how we've been funded over the years. And then, of course, we've had international conferences. We had one in South Africa, in Durban. We had one in Dawson City in the Yukon, one in Washington, and then the last one we had in London, sold out. We had 400 people there from 38 countries.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Now, you mentioned the bullion banks there. Now, they often get portrayed on kind of internet podcasts like this one as kind of black hat wearing Dick Dastardlies manipulating metal markets in totally evil ways. Now, some might say that all they're doing is doing honest trading and speculation. How guilty exactly are these big bullion banks of price manipulation, and why are they doing it?
Well, that's a very good question. But first of all, I'd like to say, if gold and silver are not being manipulated, then they be the only markets in the world. I mean, look at the LIBOR scandal. The J.P. Morgan, one of the bullion banks, is being investigated by the Justice Department in 6 different areas. Morgan just paid $13 billion in fines for wrongdoing in markets. So there's a precedent here for what they're doing. And first of all, if we go way back when, the gold price was fixed, well known, 30, 40 years ago. So it's nothing new that the governments and the United States doesn't have an interest in the gold market. When it says why they're doing it, it has to do with the dollar, it has to do with interest rates, it has to do with protection of the derivatives position. Even the other day, Janet Yellen of the Fed said, well, people go into gold when they're scared or something, or there's a catastrophic situation, or something's wrong. So a rising gold price to the establishment, to the bullion banks, to the money, to the power in the United States represents that something is not going well. So they've had this agenda, and you can tell by just if you watch the markets, and like I do every day, all day long, that they come in at certain times, do certain things, and go and just go after the price of gold because it's a barometer of U.S. Financial market health, whether we like it or not. And I could go on and on, but that's good for starters.
Now, what do you think the natural price of gold would be then if there wasn't this manipulation going on?
Well, again, another good question, because I haven't heard about it much lately, but a couple of years ago, the talk from a lot of people was if the price of gold had not been manipulated and kept up with inflation, these are people outside of GATA, the price would be $2,500 an ounce. So basically, it's about half of what it should be at the moment, the way I see it.
Now, the Federal Reserve must be, in your opinion, backing up these bullion banks. What do you think the protection is? Will the Federal Reserve bail them out if they get massively wrong on their short gold positions?
Another one. It's a right on target. It's hard to say. I know that they came in, Peter Fisher is now with BlackRock, coordinated the long-term capital management bailout in 1998, 99. They were short 400 tons of gold, and all the banks were scared that their gold positions could blow up because they'd leased out all their gold. And they came in back then, and he was with the Fed. He coordinated their keeping the price below $300 an ounce. That's how GATA got started. So it's hard to say what they would do and when, but my guesstimate is that they would have a pretty good idea if something was about to go very wrong.
Yeah. Now, we saw, talking about history, in 1968, we saw the London gold pool blow up. So Western central banks and the Bank of International Settlement and so on, they aren't omnipotent. In the end, how long do you think they can hold a line on suppressing a gold price before they physically run out of the gold necessary to do that?
Well, then that's the key. At first, I might say just something that I don't hear enough talked about, if I might bring this in. Of an example, simplistically, of how obvious the gold manipulation thing is. Everyone talked about quantitative easing all these past number of years, and it went on its final steroids in the U.S. about in September of last year in October. Well, since then, and everyone thought it was going to be naturally bullish for gold and silver, bullish for stock markets, bullish for general markets, all the money printing and low interest rates and so on. The Dow goes up 3,000 points. The euro goes up. The Japan yen, when they do their quantitative easing, it goes down like you would have thought, and yet gold gets knocked down $500. Why is quantitative easing a disaster for gold and silver and so bullish for the markets? And I don't see that talked about enough. But to answer your question, the physical market is the key to when the gold cartel is going to have to retreat. We've had 12 years in a row of a bull market. They've taken it down there in this orchestrated raid, highlighted by what I call financial market terrorist attacks in mid-April, when a 1 in 4,000 year event, when hundreds of tons hit the market, when nobody was around for no reason. The low prices, as it's well known, has attracted mega buying by the Chinese. Some people think they're taking in 2,000 tons a year. Supplies only about 2,700 tons a year. And eventually, India, gold is still going into India in a big way via the smuggling process, is that the gold's going to be, whatever they're using, whether it's ETF gold, central bank gold, to get this price down, it's being dried up, and it's going to lead to a historic move to the upside, and that's when this gold cartel, as we call this group, is going to be forced to retreat, and probably the next move up is going to be spectacular.
Now, you've just mentioned the Indian government there and the Chinese government. Now, we've heard a lot about the Indian government's new taxes on gold to try to do things to the gold market. But Chris Powell, your colleague at GATA, has just claimed that the People's Bank of China is also involved in price manipulation. What's your reaction to that claim?
Well, it's funny. GATA, we're not one monolithic group. Chris thinks that way, and some of my other top guys that support GATA do. I don't know. I mean, it would make sense that it could be that way, that they want to get the price down because they're helping them in the derivatives area to buy physical gold. I don't know that. My colleagues are more on top of that than I am. I just know that they're taking advantage of this drop. And gosh, GATA reported through my Le Metropole Cafe work 5 years before the Chinese years ago said that they had 450 tons of gold. We knew what they were doing and reported them doing it. None of this buying was reported in official statistics. In other words, that demand was not accounted for. We said, here's what's happening out there. So it's hard to know. The Chinese are so secretive. I can tell you this, they know what GATA knows. I've had 3 conference calls with the Chinese Investment Corporation, which is their sovereign wealth fund. There have been government communiques that have been brought to the attention of the world by WikiLeaks, in which they talk about the manipulation of the gold market. So the Chinese and the Russians know, who have been to our conferences, they know what GATA knows.
Yes, so if you were a betting man, I'm just going to try and make you take a bet now. When do you think the gold is going to run out, which is being used to suppress the price? And when will we see this jump up to some figure around the $2,500 range? Well,
if I was a betting man, unfortunately, I would say there's one more raid left to inflict the max amount of pain, and then when the physical gold is going to run out, it's hard to know. But I would say at some point, if there is one more what I call a financial market terrorist attack, like we see quite constantly, many of these flash crash attacks, waterfall attacks, the market just plunges for no reason. That once that is over, it's going to start this historic move, and all we can do is monitor the markets and see how it plays out. But I am convinced it's going to be historic.
Well, I look forward to that day when it happens. It's been great speaking with you today, Bill. Where can our listeners find out more about you and GATA on the internet?
Well, there's two ways. One, go to www.gata.org. My colleague Chris Powell, as you know, just came back from Asia and the Far East, and they can get on a free list there, and they can go to lemetropolecafe.com. I write about the gold market every day, and they can sign up for a 2-week free trial and see if that is of interest. And thanks for asking.
Well, thank you very much for your time today, Bill Murphy.
Okay, Andy. Talk to you again.
You can subscribe to Smart Metals Radio on iTunes, where we'd also welcome your reviews to help us grow this podcast. Please contact us via the hardassets.alliance.com website, where you can leave us feedback, tell us which guest you'd like us to interview, and to sign up for our subscription service. For anyone wishing to set up an account with the Hard Assets Alliance, as a special offer, we'll be waiving opening and setup fees. Listeners who'd like to speak to a live rep to walk through the registration process can call 1-877-727-7387. That's 1-877-727-7387. It only remains for me to give a special thanks to Bill Murphy of GATA for joining us today, and to thank you for listening. Until next time, goodbye.